Hey all, and welcome back to the Hellfire Comms playthrough of Sonic Riders. We've dealt with the hero's side, Eggman's having a stroke, so let's move on to the Babylon Rogues. This is an emulation glitch, isn't it, Flame?
Yeah, this, I should clarify, this is an official emulation, so I'm playing this on the Xbox 360, but every now and then, stuff like that happens, and it doesn't even do that all the time. It was just this one time when I booted the game up to record this, and it's like, yep, Eggman's just stuck in place.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I guess now that we're actually dealing with them properly, I'm just going to ignore the fact that Jet seemed to have a pirate ancestor in that fucking photo just there. What do you think of the Babylon Rogues as characters, Flame?
I like them and their dynamic between each other. I like that Jet as the leader with this weird, somewhat unfounded sense of pride, but he's got Storm, who's a little bit goofy, and you've got Wave, who's kind of keeping shit together, but, you know, she's got these two to work with. I do like the dynamic a lot. I would say that Wave is probably the weak link in terms of her character for me, but that's because she's the one who's not the wacky, goofy character.
Yeah, the straight-laced characters are often not the most iconic, but yeah, I get what you mean. I like all these guys. My least favourite would probably be Storm, but that's mostly because, like you said, they use him for more goofy stuff, and I like a bit of meat on my goofy character bones, and he does not provide.
Yeah, I think for me, I would agree with saying that Storm is my least favourite, and the reason for that is entirely design-based. Like, Jet's got a sort of unique look to him, and I mean, Wave is probably my favourite design of three of them. But then, yeah, I look at someone who's like, I'm sorry, that is not an albatross.
Don't know what that is, but it sure as shit ain't an albatross. Also, Eggman, just walking into someone's place. Not something you see every day. Ho ho.
Well, I think Wave did just say that Eggman was here to meet Jet. So
I know what she fucking said. Don't ruin the joke.
Well, maybe if you tell me that it's supposed to be a joke, given it's not that funny.
Oh, I have been owned. Jesus Christ.
So let me get this straight. We just need to collect all these Chaos Emeralds, right?
Just like in every other fucking game.
You really think so, eh? What do you mean? Are you saying the Babylon...
How are there people in this universe who don't know who Eggman is at this point?
It's a big world, I guess. Big enough to hold in the palm of an Eggman hand. Because Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but like, if you think all the world domination plots that he's tried, surely at least a few of them would have made the news.
Babylon Rogues aren't interested in watching the news. They just race and collect Babylonian architecture, I guess. They don't really give them much of a backstory.
Okay, so going into the races here, the way the Babylon story works is that most of their tracks are recolors, but they're not straight recolors. They do have some variants, but they're pretty much the same thing. I guess it's just for the sake of variety. If they didn't want to if they didn't have the means to make entirely new tracks, this is better than just using the exact same tracks.
Right.
But, you know, it does seem a little bit of a cop-out, given there is a story and it's practically mirroring the same thing. And you're playing them in order as well, like the same order as you did with the Heroes characters. So you do sort of get the Sonic Heroes thing a little bit, where it feels like you're retreading stuff. But, like I say, this is at least a little bit better than Heroes in that they look slightly different.
Just slightly.
Also, can I just point out that to continue the Heroes bent, this obviously started with Show Sonic What You're Made Of, and the big finale song of Heroes was What I'm Made Of.
Also, a team of 3 characters. Like, was this really just meant to be Heroes 2 before they decided, you know what, just make it a racing game?
If we're going back to what I was talking about, the way the branding works in different eras of Sonic, this is kind of the fixed look they were trying to keep around this time, and it did kind of get shaved away pretty quickly, but given there's so much from the presentation and whatnot that carries over from Heroes, it seems like it was a very intentional thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, visuals aside, there's just a lot of gameplay mechanics and whatnot that come straight from Heroes. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm just barking up the wrong tree here. So, to go back to Sonic Central, since obviously you've seen the game mechanics, we've talked about the story, talked about the characters, what else was there from that little direct, if you want to call it that we haven't discussed yet, Richard?
So there was the concert, and then there was the big reveal. Concert-wise, I'm actually really quite excited for that. I do love the video game orchestra, and they're always exciting, and honestly, it's always really cool to hear some of the incredible music from video games performed live by an orchestra, no matter what you look at it.
Hearing the orchestra, do Undertale's soundtrack was pretty amazing.
So that should be pretty spectacular. The other main thing, which is basically what everybody went to Sonic Central to find out about, and the reaction was mixed. I was very mixed as well, was the what we believe is called Sonic Rangers. Which we got a short CGI teaser of Sonic running through a forest and then doing a sort of dimension-y shifty type move. We've been waiting for a very long time for some news about what the next game was, and yeah, it was a teaser.
Yeah.
In my view, that was not enough.
No, they simply do not have the goodwill built up to play that sort of card.
No, definitely not. Like, if you're gonna show a game, like, give us something, even if it is some idea of the plot, or even just a glimpse of the gameplay. Like, you've got to give people something when they have waited for so long, particularly when you do not have that goodwill. Nintendo can get away with that shit, because as much as we all love to moan at Nintendo, for the most part, they do have the goodwill, and also because generally we know that the end product is going to be pretty damn good in terms of the quality on the titles where they tend to do that sort of stuff. So, like, Breath of the Wild, obviously we were painfully waiting for that for a very long time, but you were sort of able to still get excited about it because you're just like, I know this is going to be good when it eventually lands. We don't have that with Sonic, and so to just have that after just so long of silence was just like, no, you've got to do a lot more to get me back on board. And that's why I'm just like Sonic Colors Ultimate, great, I'm sure there'll be many people who'll be very happy to replay it, but I'm just like, nah, you're okay. So really the only thing that I kind of look at and was just like, yeah, I'm down with that, was Sonic Origins, and that's just because I haven't played them yet.
Right, yeah.
Obviously everybody else mostly has, at which point you kind of just like, well, what do you actually want people to buy? Because you've not really given us any reason to buy anything you've given us right now.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree, and you know me, guys, if you've been with HRC for any amount of time, really, I'm more on the positive side of the criticism spectrum, and feel free to clip that out of context however you like. But, you know, if someone puts their best foot forward, I'm more than willing to look past some flaws and judge stuff more fairly than they probably deserve. But it's like Richie and I have said, Sega simply have not built up the goodwill to get away with stuff like this. And, you know, get away with it makes them sound like criminals, which they're not. You know, they're just hacks.
Yeah.
And I want to believe that the so-called Sonic Rangers, which apparently will be an open-world game with, like, small contained boost levels, and, you know, like skill trees and upgrades and bosses and that sort of thing, will eventually turn out to be good, because God knows we need a shake-up in the franchise, and that seems like just the ticket. It seems ambitious, and, you know, something that I've wanted for a while now. But they don't have the goodwill to, you know, weather a tease like that. They just don't. Sorry, Flame, I keep cutting you off, right?
The problem I have with the way that little teaser trailer went down is that, as far as I'm concerned, they've done a horrible job with managing expectations there. It's like, if we're ignoring the fact that we should have known something was happening a good few months ago, they've made us wait too long to start with. There's also the fact that if they just dropped that teaser, like they just uploaded it to YouTube and Twitter and all that, and just let us go to town with it, it'd be one thing. But the problem is when you call together like a direct stream or that, and like you've gathered everyone together for a live stream, even if you're not promising the world, even if you just say like it's just going to be an update on the franchise or whatever, you're planting those expectations, and people expect something a bit meatier than, well, here's a bit of CG and a logo. You know, like it's, you're setting people up for disappointment. So when there's a bit of backlash, then like no shit. And I will say that this is influenced by the fact that nowadays in general I can't get excited by CG trailers. It's part of why I don't really look forward to E3 anymore. It's like, it tells me nothing. Like, you're literally making that to sell to people who are interested in the numbers and they want to know that you've got something that you're going to be selling soon. Like, I know these things are primarily for investors and that, and it shows when you just got CG. When you've got gameplay to show, that's what excites me as someone who wants to play the game.
Yeah, which is where Nintendo tends to excel.
Yeah, it is. Nintendo, like, yeah, they do have their fancy productions and that, but when they call you together for a direct, most of the time, they tend to have something for you to bite onto, something that you think, not so much Nintendo have this list of games coming out, it's more that this game plays like this, and I understand. Whereas, like, the fact that we're having to piece together speculation and leaks because the official sources, after all this time, are still telling us nothing, that again is something else that's poorly managing expectations, because now, I'm kind of mixed on the whole idea of Sonic open world games. I could see this being an absolute disaster, but I can see it's also the sort of thing that people will get excited for. And so if it turns out that that's a bit of an exaggeration, or maybe it's not quite that, and what it really is it's just another linear game but there's a few collectibles or shit like that, people will be disappointed through expectations that they've got outside of Sega, because Sega haven't given them reasonable expectations.
Definitely that, and also just sort of the other thing is you've got to do a little bit more with, oh, and just one more thing.
Yeah.
It's a tactic that Nintendo love to use and are very successful at using, precisely because it's generally a relatively meaty thing that they give. Like, it's usually like a minute to 2 minute trailer for something that people have been absolutely desperate for, or it's like a shock announcement a la, I feel like Metroid Prime 4 might have been one of those types of things, or like Bayonetta 3. Obviously neither of those are out yet, please for the love of God give me at least Bayonetta 3, I'm desperate. When you've got those sorts of huge announcements, when it's a game that you're either not expecting or it's not, you can either get away with a very short teaser or you need the meat for it to be worthwhile. You can't just do, and one more thing, and then just give us diddly squat. Because we didn't even get the name, we've got the name from teasers and leaks. Anyway.
Yeah. It's either Sonic Zap or Sonic Rangers, like, one of the two. And just to like wrap this up, because we are rambling now, you know, when Nintendo said we have one more thing for you, they revealed Breath of the Wild 2 and explicitly said the sequel to Breath of the Wild is now in development. When Sonic Team did it, or whoever the fuck is calling themselves Sonic Team nowadays, we don't even know. We got a CGI teaser for a game that may or may not be open world, according to leaks. And again, you know, when they're not putting out half-baked games, they're putting out half-baked PR. So what do you have at the end of the day, rather than just a half-baked franchise?
Pretty much, yeah.
And I hate saying that, because again, I'm, you know, more positive. than most Sonic fans. But even I have to say, you know, enough's enough. And I hate to think, like, you guys have been put off Riders because of what we've been talking about here. None of my criticism applies to Riders, because like I said, I haven't played it. If you love it, that's great. Look at me, I'm the Secret Rings fan. I'm not about to criticize anyone for liking a more niche Sonic game in terms of quality and whatnot, but, you know.
This level, I will say, this is probably one of the most different in terms of its visuals, and that's because they just swapped the tropes out entirely. Because if you remember, when we went through this area with Knuckles, it was a lava level. Whereas now, they've changed it into an ice level, but they've also added in ice gimmicks. Like, there's a few ice areas that you can just punch your way through, taking advantage of the fact that Storm's a power character. And you've got them big fans, which I think are really cool, and that's one of the areas that's really satisfying just to punch through as a power character.
Hey.
Like, admittedly, I did miss some of the shortcuts here, because after so many takes, I'm just finding what works for me more so than...
Oh, who cares? It's the end of the part. Fuck you, end. Bye.